I think we all have areas in our home where we'd like to organize them on a budget and make it look beautiful. In today's video, I have 10 Dollar Tree organization ideas. All right, now let's get crafting. For this DIY, we are going to be using 2 of these round pizza pans and then some rope from the Dollar Tree. Now this is just like the Crop-A-Dile, but it's called the Big Bite. It's the larger version because now you can be able to push things in further and get a bigger reach where you want to punch a hole. If you've been here for a while, you will know that the Crop-A-Dile is like my favorite tool. It goes through plastic, wood, metal, and it's because it has this serrated tip at the end when you punch through it. It's not like a traditional punch hole. So you can see here that I went ahead and created 3 holes on each pan, and it looks a little wonky, but give it a second. I promise it's going to come together. I took them outside, I spray painted them with 2 coats of white paint, and now I'm going to take the brown rope. I decided to switch my plan. I didn't use the white rope because I spray painted the pans white, and I'm going to cut them all. I have 2 ropes and I'm going to cut them in half. So I have 4 long ropes, and you can see here that I'm tying a knot. I slid it through the holes on my pans, and then I came around on the top side and tied another knot, and that's because we're going to be making a hanging up tray, which will look so cute for the summertime. So I'm going to go ahead and use a ruler and mark out 12 inches, and then I'm going to make sure I tie my knot right at that marker, so that way the trays are nice and leveled and they're not going wonky to one side versus the other. And then go ahead and tie that nice and tight and repeat that on all 3 of those ropes. Once you've got that knot, go ahead and slide it through the next holes on the next tray. Bring it through, and this is real speed right here. You can see that, sometimes it gets stuck and you just have to keep working with it until you get it to go all the way through. But once I've got it all the way through, I went ahead and then tied my next knot right on top. And when you tie these knots nice and close to the tray, those holes that you originally punched completely disappear. You can't even see them anymore. So now at this point, I'm just tying on my last couple knots. And then I would say that this is probably the most tricky part of all of it. You want to make sure that you hold the tray up and make sure that it's all leveled so you can find that top knot where you need to tie it. When you do, there's going to be this extra rope, the 3rd one. We're going to go ahead and cut that off because we don't even need that one. And then I'm going to take some hot glue to make sure nothing slips through and we don't have any issues with the rope coming untied. I just added some hot glue, brought the 2 up at the top, and tied my last knot. The Dollar Tree started carrying these beautiful glass jars. I love the pattern and texture on them so much. Now, funny enough, you're going to see me working with 3 here. After I ended up painting all 3 of them white, I gave them a nice coat of white paint. One of them fell off of my table and shattered all over my floor. I was so sad because I wanted to do something different with this than what I ended up with, but either way, I just wanted you all to see that when you paint it and then sand off the paint at the raised surface, it makes the most beautiful look to these. They look like milk glass and they're so perfect for farmhouse decor, and you can honestly organize whatever you want inside of them. They are just so beautiful, and I spray painted the lids black as well. For this project, you're going to need 9 of these boxes. I picked these all up from the Dollar Tree around Christmas time, but they definitely have them all year round. Then with a ruler, I'm going to be creating 2 angled lines and then a little bit of a lip on the box. This is going to be done on 3 of the boxes. Now you can see here I'm using my big scissors as I'm coming in along the side, but as I got to that corner, I realized a little pair of scissors were much better for that, so it didn't cause any of the box to rip. So just take your time when you're cutting around those corners
and making sure that you're not forcing that cardboard because it will rip if you're not careful. So once I came up the side and I had that part all cut, I repeated that 2 more times for my other boxes. Then I took some hot glue and some E6000 because I really wanted it to hold well together because I want to keep this forever. I love this thing. I'm now going to just glue those together so it's a nice strong hold. And then I'm going to use some of these clips from the Dollar Tree. These are just the cutest, and I find that they're so helpful in my craft room. Now I've got 3 at the top, and I'm going to continue down with 3 more just regular boxes, not cut. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom and then do another row of 3. Once I had everything all glued nice and tight and firmly in place, I took it outside and gave it a nice coat of gray spray paint. Now we're going to be creating a galvanized look. It's really simple to do. You're just dabbling on paint on top of the gray spray paint that you originally had. I went from a dark to a medium to a light gray, and then very tiny bits here and there of white. We want the white to be that part where it just kind of shines when you look at that galvanized metal. And then I just use a paper towel and I just keep dabbing it around until I get the look that I like, but you want all of those colors to come through. Now I'm taking some long painter sticks and I'm cutting them down to the size that I need of the length of my container that I'm making here. And this inspiration came from one of my favorite online stores. I will link it down below. They most likely have sold out in this particular item, but I love these things. I feel like you can put so many fun things inside of them, and it's just so fun to be able to decorate on a shelf for a holiday. I think they're so cute. And the inspiration that it came from, it was so expensive. This, I'm seriously making it for maybe about $10, $11 versus the price that it is listed down below in my description box. Now I'm just simply adding some tags, screwing it in with an eyeglass screwer, and it's ready to be decorated. For this project, we are going to be using 5 of these signs. Now, these were so popular when they first came out, I could hardly get my hands on them. And now I've been able to find them quite a bit more for different themes and different seasons. So we're going to start with 2 at the bottom and 2 coming straight up on the side because we are going to be turning this into a ribbon stand organizer. When I saw these, I knew right away that I could turn them into that because the height of them is perfect to get 4 rows of ribbons. So here I am, I'm just drilling out my holes because I want to warn you, these do splinter quite easily. And I was trying to think of a word to say how easily they splinter. So what I did was I drilled my holes and then I made sure that it wasn't too wide of a drill so that I can get my screw in there without causing anything to splinter. And then I also added some hot glue in the holes where the screw was going in so everything holds together really well and really strong. So here I am, I'm adding on the top bar. This is the top bar that's going to go into the base, and you're going to see me put it all together in just a second. Where I added some hot glue in the holes and at the joint of it, and I'm screwing it in the rest of the way, and it caused it to not splinter or crack or any of those things. So now here I am, I'm coming down below and I'm adding in some more of that glue. I'm bringing it all together. This is going to be the base. You can see my holes are pre-drilled here. I had my son help hold the other side of it. And then once it was all together, it turns into the coolest ribbon organizer, and it only cost us really $5.50. You'll see what I use in just a minute for the actual rows. So here they are. They're the long skewer sticks. I've heard them called so many different things, s'more sticks. I got these during the summertime. I've held on to them for so long. So what I'm using is a drill that is wide enough to be able to have these sticks go through it, and they do a really good job holding up the ribbon. I didn't have any issues, but if you want to find something that's more sturdier than just these, you totally could do that too. But I went ahead, drilled my holes, slid in those sticks to make sure they fit, and then I took it outside and spray painted it a beautiful tan color. And now I'm just going to slide all of those ribbons on, get them all in place, and you can see here that it holds quite a bit of ribbon. Now, funny enough, you can see that I forgot to spray paint the very bottom, so please excuse that part, but have fun with this one. It is such a great organizer. This DIY, at the end, you're going to see that you can take these cutting mats from the Dollar Tree and turn them into pretty much anything. I love these because they are a strong, sturdy material to work with, but you can also cut them. So I'm taking my ruler and I'm taking my cutting mats and I'm just cutting out a whole bunch of strips. I'm doing a bunch that are 2 inches thick and then a whole bunch that are 1 inch thick. I used 2 packs, so that's 4 mats because there's 2 mats in each pack that comes from the Dollar Tree. Once you've got everything all cut out and you have all your strips, I went ahead and took the smallest ones first and I'm just going to cross them over each other. And you can see here that I have 4 of them, and then I laid a cup on top of it and I creased the lines going up. This is because we are going to weave this into a basket. It is going to look like wood when we're all done, and it's going to look so cool, and you basically made this for about $1. So you can see here that I put the first bit of glue, then I went around one of those sides. I'm going to glue that in place, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm just going to weave. So I'm going to go in, out, in, out, in, out until I come all the way around to the beginning of that circle where I started. Then I'm going to glue it in place and cut it. After I got that first row done, I went ahead and moved up. So on the smaller basket, I'm going to have 4, I think maybe even 5. I can't remember, but I think it was about 4. And I'm just going to go all the way up, zigzagging back and forth until I get to the top. And then when I get to the top, I'm going to do something special here. I'm going to take those long pieces that I've been weaving back and forth on, and I'm going to fold one down, leave the other one straight up, and then fold the next one down, leave that one up, fold the next one down. And that's because we're going to come back in with a stapler and we are going to staple right on that part to make sure we lock everything in and it's not going to fall apart on you. And a regular stapler goes through it really easy. Then you're going to take your scissors and cut off those extra ones. I took mine outside and I gave it a nice coat of a tan spray paint color. Now you can see here on the bigger one I have the 2-inch strips and I only did 3 rows. And then I'm just coming in with a bunch of different colors of paint and I'm just adding that on until I get the desired look that I want. And then I'm going to take some of this white nautical rope, wrap it around the top, and you're ready to use these to display and organize things. For this DIY, we're going to be taking 6 of these super popular galvanized corrugated metal frames with clips on them, some painter sticks, and then some of these really large tongue depressor sticks that I get from Walmart. I'm going to take apart the frame, pop off the back, and then with my little eyeglass screw kit, I'm just going to take off that tiny little screw, and we're going to just save those because I'm sure on another day I'll find a use for these little clips. And then we're going to just glue everything back into place. And the part where I popped off the back, I'm putting that part inside the frame so that the back of this looks really nice and finished. Then I'm going to take 2 of them and glue those together on their sides. I'm making sure that the holes are going opposite direction. You can see right there. I wanted to make sure that they were going out so it didn't look like you have 2 random holes in the middle. And then I put 2 together the long way, 2 together the long way, and then I'm taking the 5th and the 6th frame, and that's going to become the sides of a darling crate with a handle that we're making. So we're just going to add some glue, and then we're going to come back in with our staple gun, and we're going to just secure it to make sure that everything is nice and snug and not going to come apart. I don't always just trust hot glue when it comes to certain things. I like to secure things because I don't want things to break and fall apart on me as I use them. When I make them, I want to make sure they last forever. Then on the inside, I'm going to take my painter stick, and I'm just going to add a whole bunch of hot glue in there, and I'm going to glue that right into place. And then I'm going to come back in with my staple gun and add a couple staples to make sure everything is nice and secure. Once I've got the two handles on, one on opposite side of each other on the shorter parts of this box, I'm going to cut off the top and the bottom of these long sticks that you can get from Walmart, and I'm going to make sure that the right length of the end of the box, and this is going to become the base of our box. Now I don't, again, just trust hot glue. I think that can pop off really easily. So I'm going to come back in with my staple gun, and I'm just going to pop on one staple at each one of the sticks on the top and the bottom to make sure everything is nice and secure. And then at this point, we're going to go ahead and add on the handle. Now I have this dowel stick that I have in my craft room from the home improvement store, but you can honestly use a plunger stick for this. And I'm just going to cut it down with my miter box and my saw, and then I'm going to go ahead and screw that into place using my drill. I always like to pre-drill holes anytime I ever work with these painter sticks because they can splinter quite easily. So I always pre-drill the hole first to make sure things go through nice and smooth without having any problem. And then I just drill it all into place. And now at this point, you can add whatever color paint you want to it, distress it, and it will look so adorable to use in your home for any season year round. For this DIY, we are going to be making a paint organizer tray. So I'm going to take 3 of these signs because these perfectly have paint fit into them. These little parts right here where you can hang them up, they pop out real easy. And then we're going to glue the 2 bottom ones together. Now I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue, just like I love to do here on my channel. And then once I've got all my glue in place, I'm going to sandwich and smush them together as tightly as I can. And I'm going to bring in my clips again just to make sure that everything is holding, because I've noticed that the sides kind of want to pull in a little. So these clips really made them hold nice and tight together. Then I'm going to take 2 regular size paint stir sticks, and I'm going to just glue those onto the side. And then to make sure that there's no issues with them popping off, I'm just going to use my staple gun and go right through it with the appropriate size staple. Then I'm going to get some more glue, and I'm going to glue on my next box the right height that it's going to need to be able to allow the paints to go in and out without having any issues, and glue that into place. At the top for the handle, it's really simple. I'm going to take 3 of these painter sticks, and I'm going to flip them back and forth different directions so that this little divot in handle part is not going to be all on one side. So I did the first one, and I went the other direction, and then the third one goes the other original direction back to the left. And then I'm going to bring it up at the top, glue it together, and gluing 3 of those together like that is going to allow it to have a big enough of a grip for the staple to go into it. So I went ahead and stapled 2 staples at a cross X pattern back and forth just like this, and it's going to really hold that in there and make it nice and sturdy to pick up with the paint being on it. Then the last thing you need to do is paint it whatever color you want and add your paint. For this DIY, we're going to be using 2 of these white wire Dollar Tree baskets one of these wood pallets that you can get in the craft section, and then I have this stair railing that I had left over from another project that I picked up at a repurposing store. I started by drilling a hole in the bottom, that way I can bring in 2 screws to make sure it's tightened nice to that wood pallet. Then I'm going to take my wire cutters and cut out 2 circles. They're kind of almost in the shape of an oval just because of the way the wire is in the bottom of these 2 baskets. And then I'm going to come in with my drill again, and I'm going to drill a hole one way, and then I'm going to drill a hole the other way. That way, so there's this cross hole that's going through both sides of the bottom of this stair railing. And that's because we're going to run in 2 zip ties going in those opposite directions, and then we're going to bring back in that wire basket. It's simply going to be able to slide right down into place, and then I'm going to take those zip ties, I'm going to bring them up into the wire basket, and then I'm going to zip tie that basket right onto my wood railing, and it's going to hold nice and firm with these 2 crossed zip ties. Then I'm going to repeat that same process for the top basket, and then I'm going to bring that right down, find the spacing that I want between the 2 baskets, mark it, and then go ahead and drill my holes, doing the same thing, going one direction and then the other direction. Once I've got my 2 holes, I went back in with the wire and the zip ties and nicely tightened everything into place. You can see here that they're not going anywhere because the zip ties are pulled extremely tight. Then up at the top, I wanted to add a knob. I thought this would be really cute, so I drilled a hole at the top of the wood railing, took one of these dowel sticks, and then these wooden balls, I actually picked these up from Hobby Lobby with a 40% off coupon. And then I'm just going to go ahead and glue that all into place so it doesn't pop off if it gets bumped or dropped. It'll just stay nice and tight and secure on top of the railing. Then I made sure I gave everything a nice coat of white paint. Then I took 2 of my favorite gardening tags that you guys know I use here all the time on my channel. I added some hot glue, flipped it over, added more hot glue in the back to make sure it's all locked into place, and then to give it that enamel metal look, I'm taking some black paint and going around the top of the basket. Now we could leave it as is, but I wanted to make the bottom look more farmhouse and add in some boxwood, so I glued on some foam squares, and then I'm just adding in that greenery as much as I like, and you're ready to use. For this craft, I have been dying to share this with you all because I'm going to be making a flower tower. Now, if you've been watching my craft room and me redoing it, you will know that I have this really huge thing that I purchased in my craft room. It's a big, I don't even know what to even call it, wire shelf organizer thing, and we're going to build one, and I'm going to show you how to do it really affordable. I'm going to take 3 of these mop poles, remove their stickers, and then I'm going to take these cooling racks, and I need 9 of them because we're going to be zip tying this all together. Now, you could always end up cutting down with some wire cutters the cooling racks, but I wanted mine to be really well done. So I'm taking my Dremel tool and I'm just cutting down that bar to the length that I need it to be. And then after I'm done cutting it down, I go ahead and add back on the cap. Now, I know that some of you are probably watching this and thinking, no way do I feel comfortable using that tool. It really has this great feature where you can turn it on and off. You just make sure that the sparks are not heading towards you. So I'm holding out the pole in front of me, as you can see here. And the blue button is where you turn it on and off. And there's a speed on it, so you can go as fast or as slow with it as you want. I obviously go really slow because I'm still getting used to it. And I also use some safety goggles when I'm using it, just to make sure I'm being as wise and safe with it as I can. I love this tool. It does some cool things that I was always struggling with in my craft room. As you can see here, I am going through metal poles, which is so stinking cool. But again, If you don't feel comfortable using it, I definitely recommend obviously skipping that part. Like I said, you don't have to cut down these poles. You could just end up taking another cooling rack and maybe layering it over one another. And instead of using 9 cooling racks, maybe you bumped it up to 12 cooling racks. You could do that too. So once I was done cutting it down, I went ahead and added back on the handles top to the mop pole. And I'm just gonna push that all back into place, and you can see here that they have now all been cut down, and I'm gonna keep these poles, the extra pieces, for another project. And you can see here that the cooling racks fit perfectly. Now I am so sorry. I tried to get this to focus like 8 different times and it just did not want to. It was being so stubborn. So I'm gonna take my cooling racks and I'm just kind of creating a score line, and I'm gonna get my drill and I'm gonna drill in some holes. Now again, if you don't feel comfortable doing this part, I bet you there's probably someone in your life, maybe a husband or a son, or I don't know, someone who uses drills and feels comfortable with them. Go ahead, but I definitely love using power tools because I feel like you can just do so many cool things with them. So here I am, I'm just drilling out a hole where I need each zip tie to hit. And then with the cooling racks, I'm just kind of overlapping them a little bit to make sure that when I go to zip tie them all together, it's going to be able to not have it be loose at the connecting, the parts where they meet up with one another. We want them to all be nice and secure on the actual poles. So you can see here I've got cooling racks and then a pole, cooling racks and then a pole, cooling racks and then one more pole, and I'm going to bring it all together in one big triangle. This part is so cool because you're going to see the inspiration at the very end. I show what the one in my craft room looks like. I use this to organize all of my flowers. For years I have had them all stuffed inside of big tote containers, and it took up so much space in my craft room. I have a lot of craft supplies with me doing YouTube here and sharing all my crafts, and I felt like I had 6 bins just dedicated to flowers from all the different seasons. And so when I realized that I could do this larger item and put all of my flowers out there, why not do that and then just keep all my flowers on display, and I can get them out when I need them, a certain color. So here you can see at this point I've brought the sides all together. I'm zip tying the last little bit and I'm just cutting off those little pieces, and it's ready to be displayed with your flowers. This DIY is super simple. We are going to be taking a bamboo cutting board, some of these screw hooks, and then one of these little garden tag signs that I use so much here on my channel. I buy them in bulk anytime I can find them because I love them so much. I'm going to pop off that stick and remove anything that's left over, and then add a whole bunch of glue to stick that right at the top of my sign. Once I've got that nice and centered and glued on there really well, I went ahead and used my ruler to map out the spacing that I would need to be able to create my hooks to drill into them perfectly spaced apart. So here I am, I'm just using my ruler and a pencil, creating my drill lines, and once I had everything all situated, I could now come in with my drill and create those holes. I highly recommend drilling the holes first, because if you don't, trying to put these little screws in, it can be very challenging. So drilling the holes allows it to already have that spacing it needs to be able to get those hooks in there without it having any problems. So here I am, I'm just going to go ahead and drill all 6 of these holes, and we are turning this into a key holder, which I thought would be so cool, and it's really cute just to hang by your front door so that you can hang up your keys when you come home so that you don't lose them. I lose my keys all the time, like all the time, you guys, and it drives me crazy. So I thought, hey, I should make something like this where I can just hang them up, and then I stop having this bad habit of putting them down wherever. I do recommend using a pair of pliers when you get down to the screwing part. It makes it so much easier. And then to finish off the look, I'm going to go ahead and take some white paint, and I'm going to just go ahead and paint on the word key. Now well, actually keys, because there's an S, but you can use vinyl for this or stickers, whatever you have on hand. I just like to hand paint because I save a ton of money doing it this way, and it's really quick. So once I've got that on, I'm going to add some twine to the back to be able to hang it up. And then after that, it's ready to be displayed and used to organize your keys so you stop losing them.
I hope you felt inspired by these projects today in this video, and you will give some of them a try. Now don't forget, I'm over on Instagram, where I'm always sharing all kinds of organization ideas underneath my account, Heidi Sonboul. I will link it down below in my description box. Leave a comment down below to let me know which one you like, which one you think you will try, and I'm going to recommend a couple of videos right here if this one interests you and you're looking for some more organization or home decor ideas. Thanks so much for stopping by, and until the next episode, bye friends.